This is part 3 of why we talk about perfume notes. In part 1, we talked about notes generally, the top, mid and base. Part 2 talked about the history of notes, and it goes back to 370 BCE in the written records. And now we talk specifically about why do we use the note structure that we use. And it comes from the 1955 paper from William Pucher's paper, Classification of Odours and Its Uses. And it's a great paper. Many academic papers are very dry. Some are wonderful. There's a TikToker that does a whole thing on academic papers that do terrible puns in their names. I am guilty of doing this in several academic papers. So Pucher thought there was a missing link, which was an objective way of classifying smells in perfumes. So he started working on this as a problem, and he started in 1926, and he thought of different things. So he started thinking, well, can it be molecular weight? But that wasn't useful. So then he looked at boiling points at certain pressures. Again, that wasn't useful. Looked at boiling point at room temperature. That didn't turn out to be useful at all. So then he finally alighted on a thing of evaporation at 16 degrees C, which is lab temperature or room temperature, and testing by olfaction, i.e. the smell. So how do things evaporate over time tested by smelling it? You go back to it, smell it, is the smell still there? Clearly, even though this is an objective test to a degree, it has a whole number of issues. So one, there's a single person doing it, so it depends very much on their perception. Two, when we talk about particularly some smells, some natural chemicals, they have a whole range of fragrances within them, so he had to make a decision as to what was the dominant fragrance as used by professional chemists and perfumiers. And then the other one was it relied on his own nose. Oh, there's going to be a part 4. So I love the practical details. So he talks about one of the things he had to do was just get hundreds and hundreds of strips of exactly the same paper, of exactly the same width. And he had to get the substances to put on that. Now, he said in his work, he travelled around the world, so he spent years getting the purest, highest grade substances he could get hold of. So he had a massive collection of these things. And then, as he said, he puts 100 milligrams over 2.5 inches of the strip. And when it's a solid, he has a 10% solution. He sampled 4 a day, so he didn't get fatigue. He started sniffing every hour, but then realised this was a bit too frequent.